How do you dream bigger without burning out, without quitting everything, without blowing up a life that already has a lot of good in it? Because for many women, dreaming bigger feels both exciting and terrifying. You might want more freedom, more money, more space, more joy, but you also have responsibilities, people who depend on you, a life you've worked hard to build. If you've ever thought, I want more, but I can't just start over, I don't want to cause chaos, I don't want to blow this all up, I don't even know where to begin, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, the show where we tackle the taboo topics of money and manifestation. I'm your host, Jenny Schulz, former 9-to-5 grinder who ditched the status quo and went all in on creating a life I love. Yes, I use manifestation. Yes, I took action. And yes, I created a 7-figure net worth before turning 40. Every week, I'll bring you inspiring stories with money mavens and manifestation masters. From learning how to make more, save more, and grow your wealth to unlocking the power of manifesting your dream life. I am so excited to play in this space with you. Let's jump into creating a life you love. Hey friends, welcome back to the Manifestation and Money Podcast. Today, we're talking about something you might quietly be wrestling with yourself. How do you dream bigger without burning out, without quitting everything, without blowing up a life that already has a lot of good in it? Because for many women, dreaming bigger feels both exciting and terrifying. You might want more freedom, more money, more space, more joy, but you also have responsibilities, people who depend on you, a life you've worked hard to build. If you've ever thought, I want more, but I can't just start over, I don't want to cause chaos, I don't want to blow this all up, I don't even know where to begin, this episode is for you. Because here's the part we don't talk about enough. Most women don't struggle with dreaming big because they lack ambition. They struggle because their nervous system associates big change with risk. Let's get honest here. We get fed a lot of loud messages. Burn it all down, leap and the net will appear. If you really wanted it, you'd go all in. And while these stories sound inspiring, for someone with kids, commitments, a mortgage, or a business, they don't feel safe. Your body hears that and thinks, cool, but who's going to hold everything together while I'm shaking things up, right? So this is where dreaming bigger can start to feel irresponsible instead of exciting. And that hesitation you're feeling in your body, that isn't weakness, it's wisdom. So use it as part of your internal navigation to shape things to what you want. Today, we're going to try on this reframe. Dreaming bigger is not about escaping your life. It's about creating space inside of it. Space for the stuff that you want to expand. Most manifestations don't stall because the dream is wrong. They stall because there's just no room for them to land. You might even be so overwhelmed mentally that what you want doesn't hold your attention long enough for you to even connect with it. And if it's not mental chaos for you, it could be that there's no room in the calendar, no room in your nervous system, no room in the home, no room in your beliefs. So instead of asking, what do I need to quit? Try thinking about what needs to shift, what could pivot, what needs more space. And this is how you allow yourself to dream bigger without just blowing things up. If you're down for a little storytelling today, I want to take you to a time in my life where things didn't quite feel so good. I was at an 8-to-5 job, and showing up for it started to feel like a grind. And now I felt obligated to stay at this job because it had good pay and a pension, and that's what I thought I was supposed to do as an adult. Just suck it up, buttercup, or grind it out till retirement. But as I juggled all of the adult things surrounding life in my early 20s, I noticed something. Our day-to-day lifestyle matters big time in our overall happiness. I don't want to just sit around and wait for someday, wait for the day that I retired to be able to do the things I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to fit pieces of that in now. And if my day-to-day life felt heavy and grindy like it was feeling, then I didn't even have the energy for the big picture thinking, let alone doing the fun things that I wanted to do in my life right now. I did try to ride it out, even though the job was unfulfilling, but grinding it out 50 weeks of the year to get 2 weeks of holidays off, or slugging away 5 days a week to get 2 days off, got old fast. And I didn't have enough good feeling days to balance out the blah feeling days. And it likely would have been fine if my job had felt rewarding to me. And I probably honestly would even still be there if I'd even just felt satisfied and had the energy to go and do the things that I wanted to do. But that wasn't the case. So I realized that I needed to give myself permission to shake things up. not burn it all down. Although, if I'm being honest here, I may have thought about handing in a written resignation notice in Sharpie marker more than one occasion, but I didn't. I just knew in my core that I had to do something different. I was the one that had chosen to take this job, and therefore I held the power to pivot to something else. And this idea to pivot allowed me to get curious. And remember, I had just begun to notice that the lifestyle that I was living day to day was what fueled my mood. And my mood is what fueled my willingness to participate in life. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed and scattered in my day to day, I'm sitting at a lower vibration, and it's harder for me to be in a good mood for my present day and also to have motivation to plan my future. It was a bit of a slippery slope I was on, and I could see it was a downhill slope. Therefore, I needed to confront my situation. So I did keep grinding it out at my 8 to 5 job, even though I didn't like it. I needed to keep paying my bills while I was looking at other options. I made myself kind of a pros and cons list of things that I did like at my job and things that I didn't, because I didn't want to just go out and put myself into the exact same situation. I needed to change. And there were several things on my do not like list, which you might chuckle at. But in this list, I was being completely honest for me about what was working and what wasn't working. I had on my list things like, I don't want to show up at an 8 to 5 job 5 days a week without exception. I don't want limited holiday time and days off. You might be listening to this thinking, wow, Jen, that's entitled. But you need to understand the big picture. And I know you have a big picture too. Oftentimes, it's an accumulation of a bunch of little things that compound that make the thing not work for us anymore. Like I had gotten denied time off to go to a family wedding, as well as time off for when a close friend passed away. I dealt with hormonal migraines that made a few days a month for me a complete write-off. And I had a boss that also told me that I lacked motivation and drive. So I didn't feel respected there. All of that stuff stacks. And sometimes it stacks to a point where it's no longer fun. When I made my do's and don'ts list, I was being completely honest about what I wanted in my ideal job world. And then I had an epiphany. I realized that I was actually unemployable. I didn't want to work for someone else, period. But I still needed to make an income, right? So at least now, with this newfound information, if you will, about myself, I was able to narrow my focus into looking into money making ideas without working for someone else. Remember, all this time, I'm still at my soul sucking job that I didn't like, so I can pay my bills as I shift into something else. And prior to my new focus, I would go to the local pub for dinner and drinks after work to shake off those 8 to 5 blues. Now, with my new focus, I was heading home after work to work on my next move. I read entrepreneur books and personal development books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Success Principles were a catalyst to pivot me to where I am today. The Success Principles is loaded with manifestation techniques and tools, but I didn't realize at the time what they were. Now I know that many personal growth tools and manifestation tools are essentially the same. They're just labeled differently. They're pretty much all about getting clear on what you want and bringing that to life in your physical space or your physical reality. I won't get into the nitty gritty of setting up my income streams on this episode, as I've talked about that in previous episodes. I'll just tell you the cliff notes. So Chris and I, we started house hacking real estate piece by piece until we were comfortable enough for me to put in my resignation letter. And then I was able to take on a part-time gig somewhere else. And I need to share this detail because I think it puts it into perspective that this process took us 3 years. I was still at that job for 3 years, but somehow I turned my dislike for it as fuel to keep me propelled towards what I wanted. Knowing that I had a future planned end date somehow made that job more bearable. And 2 years later, I was able to step away from that part-time gig and I threw myself a retirement party as a promise to myself that I would do everything it takes to make money on my own terms from that point on. And that was 10 years ago. 10 years ago to the year right now. And I've kept that promise to myself. And a big part of that promise is to allow myself the opportunity to pivot in life whenever it doesn't feel aligned. And 3 to 5 years might sound like a really long time to restructure your life, especially when parts of you want to jump ship right now. But I can tell you, looking back from my stance, where I'm currently standing 10 years in the future, that I am so grateful to look back on me, on what I did in my 30s, putting in the work, making the tough decisions, dealing with leaky toilets at rental properties in my high heels and dress pants on my lunch break from my job, because my life is so different now. I just want to go back to that previous me and give her a big hug and say thank you. Thank you for having the courage. Thank you for listening to your gut. Thank you for taking steps forward, even when it went against the status quo. Because I know when I think back to that time that if I would have stayed and gripped on to that feeling of obligation just to ride that job out till retirement, I would be a very different person today. I think, honestly, I'd have more health issues, more wrinkles, more misery. And not that today my life is all sunshine and roses, but I do love it. And not waking up to go daily to a job that I don't enjoy allows room for a lot of more joy in my life. When you're looking at your own life and the parts that don't feel good anymore, are you able to see ways to shift them into something else? Because you hold the power to co-create your future. You don't need dramatic leaps to show the universe you're serious. Just start by getting clear on what you want. Start by reading some books. That was my tiny micro action towards my new path. And micro actions are a start. And micro actions compound into momentum. And momentum builds trust. And trust builds confidence. And confidence opens doors. This is how change happens without chaos. And here's what I want you to hear clearly today. You are allowed to want more and honor the life that you have. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to implode anything. You don't need to rush. It took me 3 to 5 years for me to complete that lifestyle career pivot. And I'm still constantly course correcting this day when something doesn't feel in alignment. Life is not meant to be rigid or fixed. It's meant to be lived. So give yourself permission to play and dream and live a little or live a lot. And often that is when manifestation works the fastest. When I got clear about being unemployable, 2 different people lent me the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and that Success Principles book. Those 2 catalysts shaped me into who I am today. And that's how manifestation works. As I got clear on what I didn't want, I was able to shift my focus to what I did want, and then those books showed up in my life. And as I read them, new connections and new opportunities showed up. And it was up to me to then take action on them and move the needle to where I wanted it to land. And you have the power to adjust your life too. If this episode resonates for you and you want to shift your lifestyle into something new, then I invite you to come into my manifestation playground. It's a free community on School. You'll find the manifestation process that I use to call in my lake property, simple tools you can try without overhauling your life, and it's a calm, supportive place to explore what's next. If you've listened this far, then just maybe you've manifested this invitation into your life today. So come join me. The group is welcoming, and I'm holding the space for you to come lean in to create the lifestyle that you want. The link is in the show notes. And before I go, just know, you don't need to start over. You're not behind. You just need to create a little space to write a next chapter. You're the same character, just ready for a new season of life. Thank you for being here. And as always, cheers to creating a life you love. Wait, before you go, I know you've got some big dreams and desires of your own calling to you. I'd love for you to come hang out with me inside Manifestation Playground on School. It's free to join, and you'll get instant access to the Manifestation Vault and an amazing community of fellow manifestors. Come in, drop me a hello, share a win, or just quietly binge the tools, your pace, your vibe. Head to manifestationplayground.ca, and I'll see you in there.